Love it. Talk that talk, A-Rod. I've been saying that. That's what I told Skip Bayless. A down year. He's absolutely right. I've been saying this. Rodgers gets measured by 45-6. He had a historic season. He threw 45 touchdowns, 6 INTs. And people are like, well, he's slipping. How about this here? Here's a stat for you. Nobody in the history of the game, Skip, has ever thrown for at least 4,000 yards, more than 25 touchdowns, fewer than 5 interceptions. He did that last year with a 13-3 team, and he's slipping. He said, I bet you a lot of quarterbacks would like to slip like that. He ain't slipping. He saw the Arsenal on full display. No Devontae Adams, no Alan Lazard, still getting it done. No Mercedes Lewis. He's taking Tanya and turning him into a household name. Pretty soon, he's going to be getting mentioned like Kelsey, like Kittle. That's what he's doing for that guy. Valdez-Scantling, undrafted free agent, Skip Bayless. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely correct. A down year was considered a down year for him. Is a historic season for a lot of quarterbacks. So with that being said, he ain't lost a thing. Ain't lost a thing.
Really? Interesting. So, Aaron Rodgers is really feeling himself after he took advantage of a decimated Atlanta secondary and an Atlanta defense that is second worst only to my Dallas Cowboys defense. And you're gloating about that? You're flexing over that?
What about New Orleans?
Wow.
What did he do against New Orleans?
Well,
what about Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota is not Minnesota anymore. Have you noticed? Who's the other one? Detroit? Come on.
Yep.
Stop it. Just stop it. So I don't really care about stats, although his have fallen the last 4 years if we're talking about QBR and completion percentage.
But you don't care about QBR.
Oh, well, I care about this one because he had his career worst last year. As they were going 13-3, it became Aaron Jones's team because he was the clear-cut MVP. He just was.
No, he wasn't.
Anybody who knows that team, that was the MVP. He was the driving force of that team and the defense.
If you let me ask you a question, Skip. Do you believe Aaron Jones would have these kind of numbers without Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback?
I have no idea. I'd say he's a really talented kid. I like him.
I've seen Aaron Rodgers perform without Aaron Jones. We've never seen Aaron Jones perform without Aaron Rodgers.
He's a young player. I don't know. Let's see. Let him go and see what he does.
The running back, we've seen only a handful of quarterbacks in the last, a handful of running backs in the last 20 years be able to dominate. Adrian Peterson's really the only one that I can think of.
All I know is that Aaron Rodgers had his career worst QBR that ranked 18th last year. And he had one of his career worst completion percentages, 62%, which ranked 21st in the league. Stop it.
Okay, think of what you just said. You said he had his worst year completion percentage, worst year QBR, and the guy that you said that didn't step off a cliff was worse than he was. How is that possible? How can Tom Brady have a worse year statistically than Aaron Rodgers?
I'm glad you brought up Tom Brady. He is 6 out of 9 in Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers is 1 for 1, and it was 10 years ago. 1 to 6. 1 to 6.
Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls in 9 attempts. That's not up for debate. What the debate is that you're saying Aaron Rodgers is past, and his numbers are better than Tom Brady, who you said is ascending. I just don't see
Brady's
that.
43 years of age.
No. You said we can't use that narrative. Just like you won't let me use LeBron being in year 17, being 35. You say that's neither here nor there. So what he is, the numbers, what does the numbers say?
What do the stories say? Remember back in April of 2019, the Bleacher Report had a scathing indictment of Aaron Rodgers and how he was more at fault than Mike McCarthy that contributed to the wreckage that was that relationship. But we know that to be a lie now,
don't we? Because we saw what Mike McCarthy's doing in Dallas.
I don't know.
We saw what Mike McCarthy...
Remember what Mark Murphy, the president, according to the report, said to Aaron? He called him to tell him, I've hired Matt LaFleur. And he said, Aaron, don't be the problem from this point forward. Again, Mark Murphy has denied that quote, but it was reported by a credible reporter who covers the Packers.
Yes, Skip, that might be true. Aaron Rodgers is condescending. He can be aloof. He can be demeaning. He can be all those things. But the one thing he is on top of that is transcendent, historically great. And even though the numbers, if you measure it by his greatest statistical season, 45 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, it might look like he had a down season. But when you consider the 100-year history, and no quarterback has ever threw for at least 4,000 yards, more than 25 touchdowns, fewer than 5 interceptions. How can you say he had a down year when nobody else has ever done that but him?
So Pro Football Focus from week 8 on, so the last basically 8 games last year, they ranked Aaron Rodgers 17th among quarterbacks in performance.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
You rank it, Skip. Let that sink in. They had him the 17th best quarterback, but he had numbers nobody had ever done before in the history of the game.
And they were so impressive that the brain trust of the Green Bay Packers decided going into the draft, we need to go get our future at quarterback. They traded up from 30th to 26th to take Jordan Love. I have no idea how good he is. I didn't watch him. I only see the highlights, but they loved him. And I'm sure they still do love him.
Let me ask you a question. Coach Belichick was so convinced that he was willing. Now, we saw what they put on display on Monday night. Brian Hoyer and Stiddy, before he signed Cam Newton on July 8th.
Yep.
Coach Belichick says, you know what? I'll go into the season with them because I believe they give me a just as good a chance.
No.
That's what he said.
Nope. He needed the GOAT gone so that he had an opportunity to prove he was the GOAT coach. That's all that was. It was egomania. He's earned the right to be an egomaniac.
Well, who said it wasn't Mark Murphy ego that says, I'm going to get control back of this team because Aaron Rodgers has too much pull? Who said it wasn't his ego?
I think that was happening.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, that guy right there had a high QBR, a high completion percentage, a high yards per attempt, and he had a better record than your guy.
All I know is since that long ago Super Bowl 10 years ago, Aaron Rodgers is 6-7 in the postseason. And when I look at the 6, he beat Joe Webb, a receiver playing quarterback. He got lucky because Dez caught it in that game.
Dez didn't.
He beat Kirk Cousins. He got away with the Odell boat trip game when he took his receivers to prep for Lambeau Field down in Miami.
Your guy lost to Ryan Tannehill and Nicky Foles.
Yep.
Who couldn't beat out Gardner Minshew.
Remember what Mason Crossbar did to my Cowboys? It took 2 intergalactic Super Bowls by the hand of God to save Aaron Rodgers at Dallas.
Look at those 7 losses. Look how many points. You see what the Dallas Cowboys, that's what just think about that. Aaron Rodgers' defenses in those 7 losses are giving up more points than the Dallas Cowboys do currently. Let that sink in. Everybody sees how bad the Cowboys are. That's how bad.
Well,
in those 7 losses, they give up more points than what Aaron Rodgers' defense gave up. Aaron Rodgers' defenses give up more points than what the Cowboys' defense give up currently.
He lost to Eli at home in a playoff game.
How many points did they give up?
Cap at home in a playoff game.
How many points did they give up?
Remember how he played at Seattle? That was atrocious.
Skip, your guy had a home game in which the defense only gave up 13 points. Let Aaron Rodgers' defense hold the team to 13 points.
Leave Aaron Rodgers out of the Brady competition, please. He doesn't belong in it.
If you don't mind me asking, how many points did Aaron Rodgers' defense give up to San Francisco in the championship game last year?
Well, they got blown off the field. He was terrible.
Whoa. How many points?
I can't remember because it was forgettable.
Exactly.
Yeah, his performance was forgettable. Yep, exactly.
Don't do that, Skip.
Yep.
Skip.
Gloat, Aaron, gloat while you can.
He said, look here. He said, my down year is a great year for a lot of other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The only handful of guys wouldn't take a season like that. My homeboy, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson. Everybody else gonna take that.
Yeah.
Everybody else take that right there.
If Tom Brady had said that, I'd say, okay, I got
Don't do that. Don't do that. Old Dinkin' and Duncan Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Old Ticky Tack. That's what they call him, old Ticky Tack.
Away, Tom.
Old Ticky Tack Tom.
Tom doesn't say stuff like that.
Ro Jones, you want it right here?
He's
here
above
you
it.
go.
Speaking of taking shots, though, to
Love
Kevin
Keyshawn
Durant,
Vaughn.
did
Go
KD, guys, take a shot at LeBron? We'll tell you what the Nets superstar
KD.
had to say about LeBron James next.